Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to push further to become better masters of narrative. The way we're going to do that is we're going to explore the brilliant breakdown of American film eras by decade that was done by Patrick Willem. So Patrick Willem is a movie reviewer like no other. He's really brilliant, and he presents his information in video essay form and in a way that really has never been done by anybody else. It's pretty spectacular. I highly recommend all of Patrick Willem's work. He is a narrative genius. He is a genius on the subject. He is a subject matter expert on the subject of narrative, right? So today, you and I as dungeon masters have to understand the 1980s era of film so that we can learn lessons from it. So let's talk about it. So what was the 1980s era of film? Well, the 1980s era of film was dominated by high concept, okay? High concept narrative. What is that? So first of all, it is a person the protagonist is a person of incredible potential, right? And they have intense mind-boggling amounts of skill, right? And then they are put into a distinct world, okay? Then that protagonist, the story and that protagonist is put into a story that is limited, all right? And it's limited so that it can be explained in 30 seconds and it can be visually demonstrated, okay? That's high concept, okay? So let me give you 3 examples of high concept movies. Flashdance, okay? A woman who is incredibly, I think in the beginning of the movie, tell me if I'm wrong, I think she's a stripper. And but then the idea is that she'll become like the greatest, dancer in professional dance, right? And she does it, she pushes and here's the best way to explain the protagonist. They're the best around and nothing's ever going to keep them down, right? And so Flashdance, it's, hey, stripper attempts to make it all the way to the top, of the respected dance world, right? So that's the high concept. It's visually engaging immediately, and it can be explained in 30 seconds. Top Gun, right? Oh, and by the way, if I was wrong, that wasn't her occupation, just let me know. Then, because I don't think I've ever seen that film. Yeah, in fact, I'm positive of it. I've never seen that film. I think I might have seen the trailer. And so, yeah, and that makes sense because in the 80s, I wouldn't have been old enough to see it. There you go. Okay. And then later, it would have been very old, so for me to watch it. So that's why. All right. Top Gun. You have someone who is an incredibly skilled fighter pilot, but does not have any acclaim, and everybody thinks he stinks, right? And then he overcomes and becomes the greatest American fighter pilot ever. So, guy who is doubted overcomes his doubt and shows everybody that he's an amazing fighter pilot, right? Visually stunning, right? F-35s, missiles and beach volleyball, right? Visually stunning. And then last, the Karate Kid, right? Some schlub high school teenager is trained by Gardner to beat the very best student from the very best dojo in his rich neighborhood, right? When he doesn't even have the money to go to any dojo, right? And again, I just explained it to you in less than 30 seconds. The visuals are stunning. Somebody standing on a log doing a weird kick. Somebody, some kid who doesn't even have enough money as a cheap white gi, fighting dudes with, cobras stitched on their back and defeating them, right? It's visually stunning. So high concept is, now what can we learn as dungeon masters from this, right? Well, It's very clear what we can learn as dungeon masters from this, and that is this. This is bread and butter for any dungeon master. It should never be everything you run, but no dungeon master should ever not run high concept. It is preeminently what Dungeons and Dragons is about. Adventures are fundamentally people who are, literally one of the backgrounds is folk hero. Oh, hey, I saved a village once. Now I'm going to save the realm, right? And adventures are people where, I sometimes at the table I've had players where you have to drag them to do anything exciting. They're like, oh, I do, and I'm like, you don't understand what an adventure is. If you're not running this player character until the wheels fall off, you're not doing this right. You need to take risks. You need to put your character in position of death, like pretty much every game, right? Like, and that's an adventure, right? So high concept is, and get this, we are running Dungeons and Dragons for people who have lots. When they come to, this astounds me. Every person who sits at your table for 1 minute has given you a gift, right? And that gift is their time and attention in a time where time and attention is the most valuable resource in the world. Everyone is trying to get it. Every celebrity in the world is trying to get their attention in time. Every company in the world is trying to get their attention in time. Everything. Like, it is just, apples, bananas. It's very significant, right? So, so we should absolutely be running high concept. And of the American eras of film, every dungeon master absolutely must be fully aware of what is done for, must be fully aware of high concept, because it is a narrative structure that is so powerful and so good that absolutely zero dungeon masters cannot have this in their tool belt. It is the preeminent structure for a Dungeons and Dragons game. And when you're starting out, if you use high concept and build toward high concept, it is difficult to fail, right? If you, for some reason, are like, oh, I don't like the idea of high concept, it is going to be outrageously difficult for you to succeed as a dungeon master. So the reality is, I think I would highly suggest you watch Patrick Willem and really start to understand 1980 the high concept era of American film, which happened in the 1980s and are iconically expressed through Top Gun, Flashdance, and Karate Kid. All amazing 1980s films. And it's really critical that you understand them, and you must use high concept as a dungeon master. I would say at least 50% of your time to be successful, right? Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.